What do Rome's origin myths tell us about their culture and values? We tend to think about the Romans in terms of their violence and immorality, especially towards the early Christians. However, they did have an ethical code, which helped shape their society. Rome's origin myths can reveal that the Romans saw themselves as unique people in history. First, the Aeneid can teach us that the Romans believed that selfless duty was the preeminent virtue of their society. Secondly, the story of Romulus and Remus can teach us that the Romans believed that they were predestined for greatness by the gods. And thirdly, the Roman origin myth can teach us that Romans saw ruthless pragmatism as the necessary precondition of their continued existence. My first point is that the Aeneid can teach us about the importance with which the Romans viewed selfless duty. Dr. Gerald Lucas says, the Aeneid, quote, presents the Roman ideals and their mission to conquer the known world by a sense of duty to family, states, and the gods, unquote. The Aeneid tells the story of Aeneas, a Trojan who fled Troy and eventually established his Rome. It was written by Virgil, the Roman poet. He tried to exemplify Rome's divine destiny and the idea of selfless duty in his writings. So Aeneas, the protagonist of the Aeneid, embodies these ideals. During the final battle for Troy, he's prepared to sacrifice himself, but he realized that he has a duty to save his father. So he carries his father to safety, and then leads a fleet of people to try and establish a new state. So Aeneas' fleet is shipwrecked in North Africa, where he encounters Queen Dido, the leader of the Carthaginians. Aeneas falls in love with Dido, but Aeneas has been given a mission by the god Jupiter that he must reach Italy to re-establish his people. So Aeneas decides that he must leave. So he suddenly leaves, and Dido is so distraught that her lover has left that she commits suicide. This starts the eternal hatred between the Carthaginians and the Romans. Aeneas makes his way to Italy, but first he goes and visits the underworld, where he talks to the ghost of his father and sees the souls of the future great Romans. So then Aeneas arrives in Italy, where he is welcomed by King Latinus, who gives his daughter Lavinia to marry Aeneas. However, war breaks out between the Trojans and the Italians, because some people weren't so happy about this arrangement. The king of Venator allies with the Trojans. He lets his son Pallas, a young man, help the Trojan army, and Pallas becomes friends with Aeneas. However, Pallas is killed by Turnus, who was the man who wanted to marry Lavinia. Aeneas and Turnus agree to a duel after the two armies agree to peace. Aeneas wounds Turnus, who begs for mercy. Aeneas sees that Turnus is wearing the belt of Pallas, so he decides to avenge his friend instead of sparing Turnus's life. Aeneas exemplifies the Roman virtue of sacrificing one's own desire for the good of the community. My second point is that the story of Rome and Romulus and Remus indicates that the Romans believed that their position in the world was foreordained by the gods. This is embodied by the seemingly miraculous course of events that allowed these two twin brothers to found Rome. The Roman historian Livy said, quote, "The fates had already decreed the origin of the great city and the foundation of the mightiest empire under heaven." Unquote. His writing shows how the Romans must have viewed Rome's founding and that their culture was set up as sacred by the gods. So Aeneas's descendants built the city of Alba Longa. Eventually, a dispute arose between two brothers, Numitor and Amulius, who both wanted the throne. Amulius took the throne and he made Numitor's daughter, into a Vestal Virgin, so that Numitor would have no descendants. So if a Vestal Virgin ended up violating her vows of chastity, she would basically be buried alive. However, according to tradition, Rhea Silvia, who was Numitor's daughter, became pregnant by Mars, the god of war. She had twin baby boars, who were thrown into the river to be drowned by their uncle. However, a river god calmed the river, and the boys survived. They were then discovered by a wolf, who was nursing the twin boys, when a shepherd, Faustulus, found the boys, who took them into his home and raised them. When they grew up, Romulus and Remus eventually rebelled against their grandfather and defeated him. So like I said, these boys were allowed to survive by a seemingly miraculous course of events. Later on, Romulus and Remus wanted to build a new kingdom, but they couldn't agree on the location on which to build the city. Remus chose the Aventine Hill, while Romulus chose the Palatine Hill. The gods revealed their preference for Romulus using auguries, which were omens from the gods using birds. My third point is that the Romulus and Remus story demonstrates that the Romans' understanding of ethics was predicated upon the preservation of the Roman state. Thus, ruthless pragmatism was sometimes seen as the height of virtue. We can see this if we look at the story of Pontius Pilate in the Bible. We can see that Pontius Pilate wasn't motivated to kill Jesus because he thought that Jesus was innocent, but he convicted Jesus anyway, instead of setting him free to satisfy the Jewish people, and because he thought this would be to the good of the Roman Republic, so it was seen as just in their eyes. We can see that Romulus ended up brutally killing his brother Remus after Remus contemptuously jumped over Romulus's newly built walls of his city. Now, for the Romans, killing one's sibling or someone in one's family wasn't thought of kindly. It was actually pretty bad for them. But Romulus justified his actions because Remus's death was necessary to them for the emergence of Rome. Dimitri Adomitus said, quote, "The killing of Remus by Romulus was shown to be justified in a complicated way, as it served to protect Rome," unquote. Later on, when Rome was established, however hard they tried, Romulus could not get enough women to come and help populate Rome. He would basically go out and beg from other states, "Come and send your people here, and basically we'll provide for them." They just wanted people so they could populate their city. But no one would accept. So Romulus created a festival to the god Neptune, where he invited all the other cities to come and enjoy the festivities, but it actually was a trick, because when the Sabines came, who brought an especially large amount of women, the Romans jumped out and kidnapped their women. This basically turned into a war where the women were torn between their fathers from the Sabine side and their new husbands from the Roman side. Although Romulus's actions were still a crime, they were justified by the necessity of Rome's survival. In conclusion, although we tend to think of the Romans as mercilessly ruthless people, they actually had a system of ethics that made sense. Rome's origin myths reveal how the Romans saw themselves. First, the Aeneid reveals that the Romans believed in the importance of selfless duty. Secondly, the story of Romulus and Remus shows that the Romans thought that they were predestined for greatness by the gods. And thirdly, the Roman origin myths reveal how the Romans saw sometimes that ruthless pragmatism was necessary for their existence. Thank you.